the interior shading that's happening by having 2 leaders in the tree, and the interior of it is causing way excessive shading in the interior of this tree. And he relieves a lot of that by taking the top 80% of that out of it.
Get some good tools. Fedco clippers. I don't think there are any that are better than these. You know, that you can get these things online for, you know, $40 or so. They're ergonomically designed to fit in your hand. 15, 18 years easily. The cutting blades are replaceable. I've tried a lot of other ones that people say, oh man, this is even better. And I've tried them once or twice and it's like, no, I've never seen anything that is good. Get some good tools, get a good pruning saw. This one is old. Geez, I probably used it for 12 years. I don't know what they call it. It's kind of a Japanese design. So let's see. I think you're cutting on the pull rather than the push, as you've got more muscles to do that. One of the things I do, I was trained this way. A lot of the orchardists now say you don't do it anymore. I like to spray alcohol, water, or bleach solution on my tools, especially when I'm going from one tree to another. If this tree was heavily diseased, I would definitely do it before going to another apple tree. And if parts of it were diseased and parts of it were not, I would definitely spray my tools before going from a diseased part to a non-diseased part. Now, what they're saying these days is things like brown rot, which attacks the pit fruits, and fire blight, which is a bacteria that attacks the pome fruits, is that it's a native bacteria. So it doesn't really do any good to spray. It's all over everything, everywhere.
So you use like isopropyl alcohol? Is that what you
I think I've got bleach in here, and I don't like it because it's corrosive. That type of isopropyl alcohol in water, with bleach, it's like a 10% solution. I think alcohol would be about the same thing.
About 10%.
Yeah. Vinegar might. I don't know.
And can you get those tools at like Home Depot?
Some of the better shops would have them, but Home Depot, the ones they have are okay. But you know, for $10 more, you can get a really good set of tools. These ones might be Corona. This might be gottable at Home Depot, but not the Fedco pruners. So we know we're going to cut. I mean, we could just take an axe and whack away. That's not going to necessarily be good for the tree. So there's a way to prune properly. And I think we're all going to have to get you over here. Okay, yeah, you know, not everybody at once, but 2 or 3 people at a time. Come on over here. What I want you to look at is where this branch with my hand on is coming out. You'll see down at the base of it, there's a little zone where the bark is just a little bit wrinkled. This is called a growth collar. This is the area where a lot of new cells can move out from and actually callus over and heal a cut. So when you're cutting almost any size branch, you want to be careful not to cut into that root collar. You want to cut just a little bit above it. That way, if the tree is good and vital and vigorous, it's going to be able to actually callus over with bark and heal that wound. So first thing I do when I'm looking is kind of assess out where the root collar is on this one. And because this is all one branch that actually starts here and comes out, there's not really a growth collar on this part, but there is where this piece comes in. So I'm going to cut just above that root collar at a small angle, not a really steep one, because a steep one would leave a lot more open cut space. And if you close that up, it's not nearly as much.
And it's much stronger, of course, too, when it's not steep. When
Right.
it's steep, it's weak.
If I just cut from one side, as this branch starts to move, it will actually move on its own and tear the bark off underneath it and make a much bigger wound. So typically what I'll do is, first of all, I'll figure out what direction it can move in, and I'll do what's called an undercut. I'll come on the other side and go ahead and cut maybe 1/5 of the way in, and then come back and do my cut. So when it starts to fall, there's not a continuum of bark and it can just break right off and move. So this one looks like it's not a big deal. We could drop it somewhere in this sector right in here. So I am going to, just so I get a little bit more space here, I'm going to take off a few branches that are going to get in the way of my saw that probably need to come out anyway.
Do you ever go ahead and prune some of the smaller branches off the piece you're cutting down?
If it looked like they would be, if there were branches that would lock into other ones and not fall, oftentimes I would do that, yeah.
Or even scrape?
Yeah, this is kind of falling away, so I don't think in this case that'll be much of a problem. With a bigger tree, that could be a big problem. So I'm going to probably come out and do, let me get a few more little interior branches off of here. I'm going to pick where I'm going to cut and go ahead and do an undercut right where this finger is over here. I'm just going to start a cut. Let's see how that is looking. I'm going to follow this and make sure I don't cut into that growth collar. Okay, so I think I could start here. I'm doing little teeny strokes so I don't damage the bark on the back side of my blade.
I see where it's going to hang up,
Yeah, that's okay.
Andrew. It's going to hang up on this.
Yeah. Okay, we can do something about that.
There we go. Is it loose?
It's loose.
All right. Had a girl. So where are we tied? Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me, actually, let me
Oh,
cut
that
off
one.
a
Yeah,
few.
I got it. It's this one.
Yeah.
Watch your chin.
Whew, all right. So that's one cut, and already it's opened up a lot that we can visualize it a lot easier now. And the tree that's going to be can reveal itself.
And Goodheart, do you ever put like sap on that?
No, you know, back in the up until maybe the 80s, they used some type of tarry situation, but research showed that it really gets in the way. Sunlight and air is the best thing to do it. So next phase of looking at what might need to come out, and we can take out a little bit more here, is look for limbs that are growing back into the tree, into the center of the tree.
There's a fire blight place over here, Andrew, that you've exposed up in I think that's fire blight up there.
Oh yeah, that sure looks like it, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So what he's pointing out is a really looks like the bark is really scarred and
So
peeling off and things like that.
it needs to be cut right there, but to take that off.
Well, yeah,
Well,
if you can.
I'm not sure whether or not you're suggesting that we might want to cut there.
I think that would be perfect, but I wouldn't mind, since this is an educational facility, go ahead and cutting it at that crotch, and then seeing what happens next year. Yeah, next year and the year after that. You know, these trees obviously have some resistance to fire blight. If he treated them with sulfur or whatever that was 3 years ago, and this has been a really bad fire blight year, and that with the little bit of fire blight on here, I'd say these trees are all somewhat resistant to it.
Yeah, I think a very good chance that they're either from the Purdue program like Gold Rush,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Liberty or Freedom
Yeah.
from Cornell.
So I'm going to go ahead and take out a couple of these. I wondered about that.
Why don't you go ahead and take this whole branch
Yeah.
out?
In apples, they say the time to
Well,
prune is when the saw is sharp.
if I was only going to be here one time,
In stone
period,
fruits, it's a little
I
different.
would probably do that, not be back for 4 or 5 years. This is actually at a nice angle from the tree. But we still do have a V crotch here. So I think probably in a year or two, we'll probably take this one out. I wanted to do some more pruning in here, and that would have been the whole wad, I think, pretty much. So looking for branches that are growing back into the tree as ones to take out. I mean, ones like this one are real obvious. I'm gonna go ahead and just clip that out. We've got a couple branches here that are kind of competing for dominance, even though they're not quite up there yet.
And rubbing.
And what?
And rubbing.
And rubbing, yeah.
They're there.
So let's go ahead and
Like a water fountain.
take these
It
guys
is,
out. I
that's
can
right,
probably
that's
do
right,
that with
Nick.
my nippers, but
The loppers would have been easier, Will.
they would have been easier. But I'm the doctor. There we go.
So, do you want me to get the ladder to get after the fire blight?
Oh
one
yeah,
up
we
there?
will pull it out for that. I'm gonna
Okay.
go ahead and take a couple more that are closing up the inside here. Yeah, that's one I definitely is gonna come out.
Now, would you consider this growing into it?
Yeah, yeah.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question. If you were going to be cutting this next year, is that what you said you might do?
Might do that next year.
Then do you bear that in mind in terms of leaving these because they're going to be going that way?
Well, that's a good question. I hadn't actually gotten to that thinking there yet, but a lot of times when you're pruning and caring for a tree, you want to keep in mind over the next several years what's going to be coming out and what branches you might need to then train to be the branch that would fill that space. This is something that's taken me years to learn, and it's really simple. If you want to keep a branch from growing longer and longer and longer, like this one here, I mean, this is genetically, it just wants to keep growing from the tip. You just pinch prune the tips off it, and what happens is they then will branch out for the most part rather than keep growing. I mean, this one had a little bit of damage on it. Otherwise, this branch could just keep growing and get to the point where it's way out there, and you don't want that. You could actually, what's good to do is at a lower stage, when a branch gets to about the length you think would be nice for it, just tip prune it off. Boom. It's going to send side branches out. You get more fruit, and you stop that prolific growth. This one's gone a bit far.
Is that true for pears too?
Oh yeah, pears, Asian pears, flowers, all sorts of things.
Could you cut it further back? And even though you only see trunk now, all those little spots would eventually become.
Yeah, you could take it back to here. I mean, never just cut something right in the middle. When you cut, take it back to where there's another branch or node or something going out. And I mean,
What
we
would
could.
be a wrong cut on that?
What?
How would you cut it wrong?
If you just did it'd be like cutting your arm off right there. You want to take it to a joint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's good.
Yeah, there's good, here's good, here's good. If we wanted to do that.
When you've got crossing branches like this,
This
you
is,
do something about
you
that?
do, because whenever these rub, they're actually doing little bits of damage, and as these get bigger and in wind, they'll actually make a wound that then you could get infection or insect too. So, one like this is, let's see, this has got one branch wanting to grow out that way, another one this way.
But next year, this is going to be gone.
Yeah, next year that'll be gone.
So you'd want to trim this one simply because you're going to take that whole branch.
And we could certainly do that. Let me see here. We follow suggestions. Sure, I'll actually take that down to right here. take this one down to right here and then clip this one here. Now, most likely next year, this might actually put out fruit buds right here. And then when this one comes away, yeah, this will be in good stead to be covering this arc of the tree. So I'm glad that was brought up. It's typically people prune in the wintertime. And if you look historically, that was done because that's when people had free time. It's not necessarily good for the tree. It's not necessarily fruit productive. What happens when the tree is dormant and you prune it, you get a lot of vegetative growth, water sprouts. You've got to prune those. And if you prune those next winter, you get 10 times more. And it locks you into having to prune every year. Prune in June, that rhymes. I'm just this week pruning my fruit trees. When you prune in June, I've found out, this isn't scientific, but I get about 20% of the water sprout growth by pruning in the summertime. So you're not locked into the cycle of having to do it every year. And I've read that you get more fruit buds that way. So pruning in June, more fruit buds. Pruning in winter, more vegetative growth.
Does that hold true for warmer climates as well?
Like where?
Southern California.
What kind of tree? What kind of fruit?
Trees or stone fruit?
Stone fruits? You have more expertise
So
on it.
what happens in California is that we think we have a long season, but they grow almost till the 1st of December vigorously.
Wow.
And if you're below Fresno. And so there's a lot of summer pruning done to judiciously look at how you can have removal of growth but not exposing, because the sun is so intense that you sunburn the main branches. So there is a whole different thing to be pruning in California because of sunburn and because of the extremely long growing season. A lot of summer pruning is done, but it's done very judiciously to selectively choose things so that you keep shade over the main branches so that they don't get sunburned.
Yeah, because I always thought you only do it in January, and that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that are applicable here. Like, for instance, if I went to California, especially not Northern California, and taught my fruit class and talked everybody into buying my absolutely favorite apple that you're going to learn about, if I went back there, then 5 years later, they'd hang me because that apple wouldn't work there. You know, so fruits have something that's called a chill factor. And that is a measure of how much dormancy that plant needs before it's ready to leaf out and bud out again. So here we want something with a high chill factor. We want something with maximum amount of dormancy before the tree's ready to go into flower and bud.
Because of frost.
Because of the late frost. In Gainesville, Florida, or Southern California, you want absolutely low chill factor if you're even growing things like apples or pears. You want the minimum amount of dormancy because it's only a month or two at the most, and then it's it's growing season again. So if you took my favorite apple and took it down there, it wouldn't work. It would never work.
They grow a variety called Anna in Israel and in Florida, because Anna has a very low chill factor.
Yeah.
Doesn't need much winter.
Yeah. So if you're not buying from a local nursery like Useful Plants or Reams Creek, if you're buying through a catalog, you've got to be proactive. You've got to, if they don't say it, call and get a hold of not the person that answers the phone, but have them direct you to one of the growers. Is this a high chill factor fruit? If it is, okay, consider it. Secondly, is it fire blight resistant? If not, don't even. People say, oh, I love galas, I want to grow galas. You can't grow galas here without spraying them, for the most part, unless you've got a tremendously wonderful site with great air movement and everything like that. You got to go with the ones first that are fire blight resistant and long chill factor, and that means organic. You can grow them organically and beyond organically.
What happens if you have one with a high chill factor and the winter's not very much, or winters are getting warmer?
Well, it is true, but that phenomena. I mean, we had dogwood winter this year, so we still have those errant cold snaps a month after we've been sweating. So I don't think in our lifetime we need to work.
Degree days, or is it?
I think it's degree days, and somehow whenever I try to learn that, my brain goes, somebody else can learn that,
What's your opinion on that, Bob?
Well, it's actually where I work in California that's helped me learn about it. I worked
Yeah.
the rest of my pomology career in Michigan and New York, so it was hard to learn about that
Yeah.
there. But when you're in Bakersfield, California, you have to learn about
Yeah.
it, Will.
Yeah.
Well, they had a terrible year this year in California because they didn't have the fog that they normally have in the Central Valley. The lack of fog means that they got hot temperatures, even though the night temperatures were giving them the cooling and chill that they needed. It was erased by temperatures above 70 degrees during the day. And so they actually have to spray a material called Dormex, Dormex. They spray Dormex on their trees south of Fresno, on the deciduous fruit trees, to get them to come out and bloom in a more regular fashion, instead of having blooms that are on the tree at the same time that you have fruit that are almost ripe at the same time. So it's a
What does Dormex do? How does that work?
it shocks the tree into going ahead. And actually it's been now made illegal in Europe because of worker safety, and it's still legal in both of the Americas and Australia. So you did get the fire blight branch out during the interim, did you?
Turned out that fire blight branch was long dead.
I thought so.
Yeah,
I thought it might be.
Yeah.
So it had a canker at the base that girdled it. And
Right. It was in pretty bad shape. The question was just asked, when you get fire blight, what do you need to do? How quickly is it going to move into the tree? And the answer is some trees are resistant to it. Some are not. The ones that are not are going to have major damage, even death from fire blight in a relatively short period of time.
within the year often, we're way into the roots.
Yeah, and the ones that are resistant, there's a whole range of resistance. The most resistant ones hardly ever get it at all. An elder neighbor years ago gave my wife and I a heritage tree called limber twig. She grew up with it as a kid and said it was one of her favorite apples. In the 16 years it's been there, I've gotten like one tip that big with fire blight on it when everything else around is covered with fire blight. It's super resistant. Some of the resistant ones like Liberty, which we're going to be planting later on today, Gold Rush that we'll be planting, they are normally moderate to highly resistant. So my trees like that will get little bits of it, and sometimes a lot, but it seems to compartmentalize. Let's say I'm the tree and these are my flower buds, gets it in this flower bud, and it seems like the tree compartmentalizes it. It doesn't move. If it does, it doesn't move fast. The tree that doesn't have that compartmentalization, that is sensitive to it, right into the body of the tree, and that can be killed. Yeah, systemic. Yeah. So we could spend a fair amount more time on this tree, but we've got other trees here.
So much better already.
Yeah. One of the things that I would do if this were my tree and I was not wanting to let it get a whole lot taller is I would look at this dominant branch that we left behind now, and where it's growing all the way up and kind of running for the sky, I would go down about a yard and a half, maybe 4 or 5 feet, where there's a couple of smaller branches doing that, and cut it right there. And what that would do, then the growth would go into those smaller branches that might pretty much top out the size of the tree unless you walked away for 10 years. I would also go out to some of the other branches that might be taller than that and cut those back a little bit too. When you cut, you'll get side branches. Usually it doesn't grow a whole lot further, except for the side branches, and you'll get a lot more fruit. So in these trees, usually the tallest one gets all the enzymes and hormones for growth. So a lot of the branches, once they start getting close to the same height, they'll be competing to see who gets the growth hormones. And you can select which one you want to be dominant, tip prune the rest of them, and then play with the size of it that way. So you get more fruit, you stop it. You know, frankly, if that one grew up another 20 years and another 10 feet, it would just be the youngsters here that would be climbing and getting the fruit, or we'd be smart and shaking the tree. But it's nice with, one of the nice things about a semi-dwarf or a dwarf tree is with a little bit of light pruning, you can keep them to where you can easily pick them with a 6-foot orchard ladder like this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that's an 8-foot. That's an 8-foot orchard ladder, yeah. So there's more to be done here, but we can move on to another one unless you've got more questions.
Andrew, what about the spacing? Like if you got two branches that are basically in the same plane like that, but they're real close together,
Yeah.
wouldn't you take out, like I would say, take out that one?
So the question is about branches that are competing for sun. I mean, ideally what you want is you want sun to have access to all parts of the tree, because the sun is what ripens the fruit. And the sun also impacts the tree with the making of fruit buds. So when you've got branches like this one, and then the one right above that are all kind of competing for the same space, that's a good one. One of those is a good one to take out. Pruning is really done for us, the growers and the pickers. Makes it easier. Fruit gets a little bit more riper. Typically they say in this country we grow apples as a scaffold, and that means you've got ideally one stem, one trunk, and at some predetermined height above the ground you have a scaffold of maybe 3 or 4 branches that go out, and then ideally 18 or 20 inches, another scaffold, 18 or 20, another, and then you final it. And you try to, but in nature it doesn't quite work like that. Some trees are real difficult to do that, but if you work with a tree from when it's really young, you can do it. But the idea is that sun can penetrate all parts of the tree.
Andrew, I've seen apples grown on wires like grapes.
Yeah.
Like that. Is that what that was the purpose of what?
That's Nikki, what's the name of that? Oh, thank you. That name escaped me. Espalier.
Yeah.
That's a way of getting a lot of fruit production in a very small space. Up against walls and things. It's beautiful. It takes a lot of work. At Warren Wilson, when I was there, they were just putting in a espalier garden, and I think they did 10 years before I was there. And Ian, who was the gardener at the time, finally just cut him down. He said, it's way too much work. He probably had the wrong, matter of fact, I'm sure he had the wrong rootstock for espalier. They were way too vigorous, and it was just taking way too much work to try to maintain them. But Nikki's got some espalier going. That first 2 rounds, the voles killed her young trees, and voles can be maddening. I mean, up until 2 years ago, they're all in my landscape, but they never did a lot. But last year, a 14-year-old apple tree didn't leaf out in the spring, and it was because of voles. It just about killed it. I cut it back and grafted onto it, and then I closed up the vole holes, and now I'm growing limber twig. I mean, it's just a shoot coming up, but I've had friends over the years that say we can't grow fruit because of the voles, and I didn't quite understand what they meant, but I do now, and I know you do now.
You have an apple tree that's straight up one day, and the next day it's leaning, and you pick it up out of the ground, and it's like a stick, and there are all these chew marks, and it just, all the roots are gone. So yeah, they really are a plague at the moment.
Yeah, I just started this past Wednesday taking a 10-week class at the community gardens in Black Mountain about biodynamics, and I know that Craig Siska is teaching it, and he's really a great teacher and very, very knowledgeable. He's Cherokee also, but one of the classes is going to be about what they call peppering and ashing, and I'm really interested in that because of both the stink bug and the vole. But these are biodynamic methods of dealing with pests. And I don't know exactly, but it's something to do with turning them into ash, mixing that in a water, potentiating it by stirring, and then spraying it around. I'm going to try it. It may not work, but it may work. Yeah. And it supposedly gives the psychic signal to those pests not to hang out here. Yeah.
Something I tried this year, and I don't know how well it'll work, but I'm new at the fruit tree game. So there's a lot of diversity in the fruits, first of all, but all of the fruit trees that I planted, I've got garlic and onions around the base of all of them.
That's a good understory
And,
thing.
it's pretty wide, about
Yeah.
you know, they're smaller trees.
Yeah.
But
How
it's
close?
real potent.
How
you know,
close to
garlic.
the root zone? I mean, how close to the stem?
Oh, some of it's within probably 8 inches.
Okay, I would say especially for the garlic, don't harvest it.
Okay.
You know, just leave it in the ground because you know you will be having to dig up tender roots. Most of a tree's roots are microscopic, and those are the feeder roots, and they go in bursts. I mean, they're not there in the winter time, but as the soil first starts to warm up, there's a burst of root activity for a very short period of time, and then when the flowers happen, those microscopic roots die back, and then as soon as the shoots begin to grow after the flowers, then there's another root growth thing, but the majority of roots are microscopic, very short term.
Just want to add something there. You were talking about deer predators.
Yeah.
And I've really found something that seems to work real well for me. And I take dog hair from the poodle shearers and put it in little satchels and just hang it on the trees and my blueberries. And since I've done that, I have no deers. They'll eat a tree that doesn't have a satchel, and they'll leave the tree with the satchel
that's great.
alone.
That's great.
You also have live reinforcements.
Yeah, we have those too.
Well, one of the things I've read about deer repellents is to switch them around, because after a little bit of time the deer will get used to them.
Yeah, but see, they don't know the real thing from that thing that goes around with four
Yeah.
legs.
Especially now if you had a little squeaker in it, you know, and you could do it from a distance.